here comes a question that's got nothing to do with veterans.
That's not accurate, actually. I was going to say, what discussions have you had with the current minister and the department about, I suppose, trying to get Labor to stump up in this case?
Well, we're engaged with them all the time, and we've made it a point of our debate of what's happened to the wellness centres, and also what's happened to the wellness centres in coalition electorates. This has been part of the process right from the time of the election, when it became apparent that the wellness centres were being stripped away from Queensland, from coalition seats, because this should be bipartisan and blind to politics. We wanted to see them invest back in wellness centres. They'll probably say it was about $5 million that was on the table to get this one going. Now, I'll give you an example of where they're about to blow $300 million, and that is on a referendum which, quite obviously, from all we see, is going to fail. They should be pulling that up, and you found yourself $300 million, and therefore you've got 60 wellness centres that you could use that money for. Or if you don't, or actually use it to go back to appropriately try and look after people in Aboriginal communities. But we're about to blow $300 million, yet we can't find $5 million for a wellness centre here.
Do you feel like the opposition's making headway with the government in terms of getting a wellness centre, whether here or in other parts of regional Queensland?
I don't think that we make headway when with a Labor government, especially when even the minister's not in the cabinet room, and we have to do half the lifting for him, because just watch Parliament. He's the Minister for Veterans Affairs is sort of halfway back to. He's almost sitting up there with the media. He's so far back, and that's a sign to everybody when they see it that they don't believe that people who are on the front line should be represented by a person who's on the front bench.
Taking you to a different line of questioning now.
Yep.
Is David Littleproud safe as Nationals leader?
David Littleproud is safe. David Littleproud, this is the amazing thing. We get a story that I had nothing to do with, and then all of a sudden that starts the rabbits running, and then we get a story about ERC, which I'm not a part of, and then people come and ask me questions, and then we've even got people doing the numbers for a job I'm not even going for. I always say, I am flattered. Apparently they're already counting up numbers, I'm not even going for the job. It is a marvellous feeling, but no, everybody can just cool their rockets, everything's fine.
Perfect, that's all the questions I have for you, Barnaby.
Okay, thanks.
Ted, I might go to you next, okay?
Sure.
To begin with, Ted, 90 days, I'm just going to take you first to the 90-day pause on infrastructure projects from the federal government. I think that comes up end of the month. What are you hoping to see after this 90-day audit of major projects, including some big ones in the post?
Well, firstly, it's ridiculous that Labor decided to have a 90-day review of infrastructure. I mean, here we have 1.5 million people coming to Australia in addition to our current population. We're in the midst of a housing crisis, and the government decides to put infrastructure spend on hold. Now, we know very well on the Sunshine Coast that the Coalition had fully funded $1.6 billion for rail through to Maroochydore, and also well over $100 million for the Mooloolah River interchange. Those two at least need to be confirmed. We need to get on with it. Every day we delay on infrastructure, it costs more, therefore we get less. This is typical Labor. They don't know how to manage the economy. They hold back on infrastructure and they beat up on the Sunshine Coast.
The State Transport Minister is actually on the Sunshine Coast today spruiking that $14 million for the business case, but still not any funding to actually build the rail. What's your take on that?
Well, Labor at both the state and federal level refused to put real money into getting stuff built. They'll spend money on reviews and media releases, and the minister will swan up on the Sunshine Coast, but are you delivering money that will build stuff? Labor doesn't do that. We've been waiting for years as a community. We have united as a Sunshine Coast, regardless of political colour. We deserve this infrastructure, nothing less. More and more people are coming to the Sunshine Coast, and Labor at the state and federal level are ignoring us as a community. It's not good enough. If the State Minister, if Bailey wants to come to the Sunshine Coast, come with your chequebook or come with a shovel.
Taking you to some other questions, Minister O'Brien, do you think the Robodebt fallout is harming Cameron Caldwell's chances in the Fadden by-election?
Look, Cameron Caldwell will do a wonderful job for the people of Fadden. There is no bigger responsibility in public office than representing your local community, and Here we have in Cameron somebody who has been practicing just that for many, many years. Of course, you can never take anything for granted, which is why he, like the rest of our team in the coalition, are working hard on the ground. We've got to put the people first, and that's what the people of Fadden will get with Cameron in the role.
Should Scott Morrison consider resigning?
That's a decision only that Scott Morrison should take himself. There's always a special compact between the residents of an electorate and their elected MP. Either the electorate or the MP makes that decision.
Now, it's been a little over 12 months since you've been Energy Minister. Obviously, nuclear is a big thing on the opposition agenda. Do you feel like people are coming around to nuclear in Australia and in your electorate?
Look, I think people across Australia are coming around to the fact that Labor has broken the energy market. They promise lower prices, prices go up. They promise a more reliable grid, it's unreliable. They promise greater investment, investment has stalled. Everything Labor has done to Australia's energy market is failing and it's getting worse, and people are seeing that in their power bills. So as we look to the future, it's pretty clear what we need. We don't close down baseload power stations when we still need them. We need more gas into the system, and we need to explore next generation technologies, including zero emissions nuclear technology. Zero emissions nuclear technology, as Peter Dutton has made very clear, needs to be explored. That's what we're doing. We'll have a lot more to say as time goes on.
Just a couple of questions for Andrew.